Hello everyone, I'm Keith George and this is my discussion on barriers to Web 2.0 for Module 5. In examining the provided reading, it was identified that teachers feel like there's a lack of time, and that creates a barrier for 21st century schools and the implementation of Web 2.0. Teachers don't feel like they are given the adequate time to themselves digest the new approaches, get familiar with the technologies, and so forth. And that ties right into the lack of training. Far too often our professional development and our training opportunities are so condensed and compressed that the information almost seems essentially just to be thrown at us, and then we're to reflect on that information and try to implement it into our classes later. I think more time needs to be invested in training. Teachers have also expressed a lack of tech support. Do we have the support staff when there's issues that are presented? If we don't, the teachers set the technology aside and go back to what they're familiar with. Do our administrators support technology, or is their focus in other avenues? Those are all things that are going to play an effect on Web 2.0 in 21st century schools. Other factors that were identified are the school culture. Where is our focus? Where are our initiatives? Are we focusing on technology, or are we still looking at textbook adoptions? What are we establishing high-tech labs or one-to-one initiatives? What's our school culture look like? Are we trying to close that digital divide? Are we providing opportunities for students to connect to devices? Do they have access to it at home? Are we focusing so much on filters and blocking sites that we're not providing enough access to our students? And then lastly, or second to last, our network issues. Do we have the network that's necessary to support our technology devices and so forth? And then the fear of the unknown, just the unwillingness to implement something just because someone's not as familiar with it. The next article pertained to the 7 common barriers, starting with the lack of a vision or a plan. If there's not a vision, then there's no plan. If there's no plan, there's no action taking place. So if we want to adopt these technologies and these innovative approaches, then we need to establish a goal. We need to establish a vision that then we can establish a plan for and take action on that plan. There may be reluctance in teacher role shift, going from that lecture mode to student-centered approach or project-based learning, going from lecture to the teacher being the facilitator. There's some reluctance there. Achievement gap. Are students given equal access? Do they have access to technology at home? Do they have Wi-Fi at home? What do we need to be looking at to close those achievement gaps? And then how do we promote and encourage innovative approaches? If we're not providing teachers the opportunity to collaborate and communicate these innovative approaches, then we're not going to be able to expand those beyond one classroom and to throughout the building or throughout the district. Time needs to be provided for those collaborations to occur. Funding is a major barrier, prevents adequate technology or programs from being implemented within the schools. Textbooks versus technology funding. I spoke about this a little bit in my introduction video. I think that textbooks and technology, that should be one fund. If we have so much open educational resources now, maybe we should look at less textbook adoption and more technology adoption in using those open educational resources. Maybe just purchase enough textbooks for a class set rather than one for each student and so forth. Save some money there. Network and infrastructure and training are also barriers. We need to, again, ensure that we have the appropriate infrastructure to support these devices, and our staff need to be trained in using these devices. Looking at the digital divide, geographical location does play a factor. The graphic here on this slide shows the percentage of homes that have broadband internet by county. Okay, the darker the blue, the higher the percentage of homes that have broadband connection. As you get lighter and into the yellows and reds, those are areas that have low percentages of broadband connection. Other issues include affordability. There's very little competitive market out there right now in broadband, therefore costs are high and people don't want to invest in that. Lack of legislative follow-through. There's been initiatives to try to close that digital divide, but yet there's been no follow-through with it and reaching those areas that are in dial-up and DSL. Open educational resources. These are resources that have open licenses, which is going to allow our teachers and students to use materials, adapt them, and distribute them, as long as we're still giving credit to the original creator. They were once used just to fill holes in curriculum, but now there's enough educational resources out there that can support a full curriculum for subject areas and grade levels. And the best of all, it's free. And again, if we start implementing more of this and less textbook adoption, then it frees up funds to purchase project-based learning programs, to purchase more technologies and so forth. Can the digital divide be resolved? I believe it can. I think it's going to take time. Other things that it's going to take, I feel like it's going to take an increase in infrastructure. Again, making sure students have access to so again, there's been legislative initiatives, but there needs to be follow through with that. Again, an increase in competitive markets will help to lower costs and people will be more inclined to buy into it. An increase in funding will also aid schools in the ability to move maybe towards a one-to-one initiative where students are able to take their devices home, or just an increase in technology, period. Increasing the availability and equal access, just again allowing our students the opportunity to access technology during and after school. And in the classroom, this could be through constructivist approaches where students are working collaboratively on live documents and presentations and so forth. Again, providing opportunities for students to access it during school and maybe for providing time after school as well. I also think that through community connections, we can try to work to close that digital divide, maybe through funding from community connections, or maybe local businesses provide areas for students to go that they can connect to their Wi-Fi and so forth. What skills do I feel are necessary in the 21st century for graduates? I think critical thinking and problem solving are essential. We need to give them authentic applications or real world problems to where they can critically think through them, try to come up with solutions, and in that process, they're going to become creative. They're going to have to collaborate with others, therefore communicating with them to develop these solutions. So critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and collaborative skills, I think, are essential. But it's also been expressed by many businesses that we can't forget the soft skills. They want people to show up to work on time, to dress appropriately, to be able to talk face to face. So we can't forget those soft skills or teaching our students to be socially aware. Also, students need to recognize that things change and they need to be flexible and adapt to those changes. And then also very important is media literacy. We need our students to be able to use web applications and apps and so forth, but at the same time, we need them to be able to effectively interpret and analyze content and information, as well as communicate it and also create it. How it has impacted my personal use. It's changed the way we get entertainment at home. We don't have cable, but we have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and so forth. It's changed the way we do shopping, relying heavily on Amazon Prime, but also through click lists and so forth. It's changed the way I communicate with friends and family, and it's changed the way I obtain more information, the way I educate myself. In my classroom, I've used various web applications, presentations, It's changed the way I communicate with students, parents, and coworkers, and just through the implementation of Chromebooks, iPads, projectors, Elmo, so forth. What additional training do I feel I need to effectively integrate technology? I've already made some strides, but I still need more assistance in moving from using technology as a substitute. Just taking that hard copy and creating a digital copy of it to distribute. Yes, I'm saving paper, but I'm not changing the ways I'm measuring student proficiencies. If it was boring on paper, it's going to be boring on the device. So I need more innovative approaches to measuring student proficiencies using technology. I need more VR training. We're getting that new class set for next year. So far, we've received about 1 hour of training, and that was more so just exposure to it, getting to kind of play with it and get familiar with it, rather than, hey, this is how it can be used and so forth. So I need more training there. I need my tech coordinator to continually expose us to new web applications and how they can be worked into our curriculum. And then I think we need to further explore our current technologies and resources. I think there's some resources that we have that we're not fully tapped into. We haven't unlocked their potential yet. So I think we need further training on some of the things we already have. Is my district prepared for the 21st century technology? I think we are, but I also feel like there's some inconsistencies throughout the district. From building to building, we use Apple products and we use Google Chromebooks and so forth. So there's a variance in technology available throughout the buildings as well. In the elementary, they've got smart boards, iPod carts, and mounted projectors. In the middle school, we have 1 iPad cart per grade, 2 Chromebook carts per grade, and then our projectors aren't even mounted to the ceiling. In the high school, they've got 1-to-1 MacBook initiative, and then they've got mounted projectors. So I think becoming a little more consistent there may help us in our preparedness. Many teachers feel like we still haven't received adequate training on the available technologies, as I kind of mentioned in the last slide. Fear of the unknown or close to retirement. We've got some teachers who are close to retirement who aren't willing to try to dive into using these new technologies, or they're just not familiar enough with it to implement into their classrooms. Our new technology coordinator has made immense updates throughout our district, and he's only been in the district for 2 years, but he's made huge strides, and I can't wait to see what comes in the next couple of years. So with his help, I think we're going to continue to see our preparedness increase. Advantages of innovative practices. They provide authentic learning opportunities, getting our students to recognize real-world problems and giving them avenues to think critically about them and work to create solutions. Okay? That's going to increase our student engagement. Innovative practices better prepare our students for the 21st century workforce, getting them more familiar with technology and becoming media literate. And then also provides opportunities for learning to extend beyond the classroom. Now we have access to people across the country and so forth. And recognizing that, getting our students to recognize that things change, we need to be flexible, and we need to adapt to those changes. Disadvantages of innovative practices in schools. We need to ensure that our networks can support our devices. We need to ensure that we have IT staff that are supportive and can be there and ready to assist in failures. Funding. Funding is a disadvantage. Trying to implement equal accessibility. Do our students have access at home? Are we providing enough access throughout the school day? And then we've got to monitor inappropriate use. Cyberbullying and inappropriate use. We can't control what happens outside of school. Obviously, with social media, there's a lot of issues and unkind things that occur there. So we need to be monitoring that. And within our school, we've dealt with multiple issues with that. So we need do a better job of teaching digital citizenship. And then within the class, we've got chats, games, exploration. It just kind of turns into a distraction. If so, technology gets restricted if inappropriate use continues. Thank you.